In 1900, inside a Buddhist cave complex at the edge of China's Gobi Desert, a wall that looked ordinary concealed something extraordinary. In the corridor of Mogao Caves 16, Daoist priest Wang Yuanlu noticed a sealed doorway hidden beneath a mural. When the barrier was opened, it did not lead to a grand temple or a chamber of gold. It led to a small room packed almost to the ceiling with bundles of paper, paintings, printed texts, textiles, and religious objects. More than 50,000 items had been shut away there for centuries. The chamber is now known as Cave 17, the library cave. But the most important question was not what had survived. It was why so much of the written memory of the Silk Roads had been hidden behind a wall in the first place. The answer begins with the landscape. The Mogao Caves stand about 25 kilometers southeast of the Dunhuang oasis in Gansu, where the cliffs rise above a dry river valley at the eastern foot of the Mingsha Mountains. For travelers moving across Inner Asia, Dunhuang was not simply a desert stop. It stood near routes where traffic divided and rejoined, linking the Chinese heartlands with Central Asia and lands farther west. Merchants carried silk, grain, horses, pigments, and precious goods. Monks carried scriptures and ritual practices. Officials carried orders and accounts. Languages, artistic styles, and ideas moved with them. Beginning in the 4th century, generations of patrons and craftsmen cut sanctuaries into the cliff. Today, 492 caves survive, preserving roughly 45,000 square meters of murals and more than 2,000 painted sculptures. The walls themselves became an archive of a millennium of Buddhist art. Cave 17 was never designed as a library in the modern sense. It was a small rock-cut chamber connected to the corridor of Cave 16 and originally served as a memorial shrine for the influential 9th century monk Hongyan. A statue of the monk once occupied the room, framed by devotional imagery. At some point, that statue was moved. The chamber began to receive manuscripts, paintings, and other objects instead. There were no long shelves, reading desks, or rows of bound volumes. The material was bundled, stacked, and compressed into the room until the space became less like a library hall and more like an archive sealed under pressure. That detail matters because the documents did not come from a single moment. They span centuries, from the ancient to the medieval world, and they preserve far more than formal religious doctrine. Thousands of Buddhist texts survive in Chinese and Tibetan, but the cave also contained documents in languages such as Sogdian, Khotanese, and Old Turkic. There were monastery accounts, letters, contracts, inventories, calendars, prayers, paintings, diagrams, and private records. One document preserves the rules of a women's association in 10th century Dunhuang. Another records a divorce agreement. Another preserves the will of a nun. Financial accounts reveal exchanges measured in wheat, millet, oil, silk, and cloth. A star chart maps the night sky with a sophistication that still surprises modern viewers. These are not merely relics of famous rulers. They are fragments of ordinary lives that would otherwise have disappeared. Among the most celebrated objects was a Chinese copy of the Diamond Sutra, printed from woodblocks and dated May 11, 868. Its illustrated frontispiece and long printed scroll survive as the earliest complete printed book with a known date. The object is famous because it changes the scale of the story. Cave 17 was not only preserving handwriting. It was preserving evidence of a world in which texts could be copied by hand, organized in bundles, repaired, circulated through monasteries, and also reproduced from carved woodblocks at scale. The chamber held technologies of memory as well as memory itself. Yet the cave still refuses to explain why it was sealed. One early interpretation proposed that it had become a repository for worn or obsolete sacred material, texts and religious objects that could not simply be thrown away. This became known as the sacred waste theory. Other evidence points toward organized monastic collecting. A 10th century manuscript describes the monk Daoist of Sanjie Temple searching storerooms and private holdings for damaged or incomplete scriptures so they could be repaired and preserved. Many surviving manuscripts are connected with monasteries, and some scholars have argued that Cave 17 became a repository for a monastic library. Another long-standing possibility is protection, that the chamber was sealed when political or military danger seemed close. The early 11th century was a period of major change across the region, and fear of invasion has often been proposed as a reason for hiding the collection. None of these explanations solves every problem. If the room was only a place for sacred waste, why did it contain valuable paintings, carefully organized Buddhist bundles, and secular documents? If it was simply a working library store, why was the entrance concealed beneath a mural and then forgotten? If the manuscripts were hidden from a threat, why is there no surviving record of the decision? And why do the dates and contents resist a single emergency scenario? The chamber's earlier connection with Hongdian adds another possibility. Storage, memorial practice, and religious respect may have overlapped. The honest answer is that the sealing remains debated. That uncertainty is not a weakness in the story. It is the most important evidence that the chamber had a history more complicated than any single dramatic explanation. For almost 9 centuries, the dry desert environment helped preserve materials that are normally vulnerable to decay. Paper survived in the sealed room. Pigments remained visible. Textiles endured. Then Wang Yuanlu opened the doorway in June 1900. He had moved to the Mogao site around the end of the 19th century and had taken responsibility for restoring the neglected caves. After discovering the chamber, he tried to draw the attention of officials to the manuscripts and to the needs of the site. He was eventually instructed to reseal the cave, but the existence of the hidden archive had already begun to spread beyond Dunhuang. In 1907, the British-Hungarian archaeologist Mark Orlstein reached Mogao during an expedition across Central Asia. With the help of his Chinese assistant Zhang Xiaowan, he gained access to Cave 17 and obtained thousands of manuscripts, paintings, and textiles from Wang. In 1908, the French sinologist Paul Pelliot arrived and examined the material in detail, famously working among stacks of manuscripts inside the cave. He purchased another large group and took it to Paris. In 1910, the Qing government ordered the remaining material to be sent to Beijing, but other bundles had already moved through later expeditions and collections. Within a decade of the discovery, a chamber that had kept its contents together for centuries had become an archive scattered across countries and institutions. That dispersal created one of the strangest reversals in the history of preservation. Cave 17 protected its contents by isolation. Modern scholarship has had to understand them through separation. Portions of the same textual traditions now sit in London, Paris, Beijing, St. Petersburg, Japan, and elsewhere. In some cases, fragments of related documents survive in different collections. The International Dunhuang Program, established in 1994, was created in part to catalog, digitize, and virtually reunite materials from Dunhuang and other Silk Road sites. A collection once physically compressed into a tiny chamber is now being reconstructed across databases, conservation studios, and digital images. And that changes what Cave 17 means today. The discovery is often described through superlatives. Tens of thousands of manuscripts, the earliest complete dated printed book, one of the great archaeological finds of the 20th century. But its deepest value is smaller and more human. A nun's will, a monastery's grain account, a repaired scripture, a club's rules, a map of the stars, a painted banner folded and stored in darkness. Each object survived because, for reasons still debated, someone decided that it should not remain in ordinary circulation. The wall in Cave 16 did more than hide a room. It interrupted time. Behind it, layers of medieval Dunhuang remained compressed while empires changed, trade routes shifted, and the oasis lost the position it once held in transcontinental exchange. When the doorway reopened, the Silk Roads were no longer functioning as they had when those documents were written. Yet the people who had used them were suddenly present again through ink, paper, pigment, and cloth. Cave 17 is now empty of the mass that once filled it, and the Mogao Caves are protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The mystery of the ceiling has not been resolved, and perhaps it never will be. What remains clear is that a small chamber in a desert cliff preserved something larger than a collection of old manuscripts. It preserved evidence of how ideas traveled, how monasteries worked, how ordinary people organized their lives, and how cultures met along the Silk Roads. For nearly 900 years, that memory existed behind a painted wall. The door was opened in 1900. The archive is still being opened today,